There's a line to be drawn for people sometimes who struggle with that line, which is that in a free society we must tolerate things which we personally find intolerable.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, you've given the example of the Taliban. We can see where things go if we don't allow free expression. And you could even say the Taliban agree with free speech for anyone that agrees with their values. Stalin is for free speech for people who agree with Stalin. So if free speech is to have any meaning, it has to include things that we find objectionable, offensive and shocking.
My contention goes a bit further than that, though. I'm making the point that actually sometimes it seems to me, maybe you agree, maybe you don't, I don't know, that in the world of art and comedy, the arts generally, actually, that there are people who rejoice in just how transgressive they are and how much they break boundaries and all the rest of it. But actually, and I'm not picking on Islamists here particularly, it's just that this is an exhibition about suicide vests by artists who have shown a signal ability in the past to ridicule and hold up for ridicule Christianity and to some degree even Judaism, but won't do it, it seems, for Islamism.
I think the progressive arts establishment is slightly stuck in the past, and they think of themselves as fighting against this, you know, conservative, traditional behemoth that actually really doesn't exist. So while I think it was really important, you know, in decades past, that people challenged the grip of, you know, religious elites on society, that isn't the case now. And now we have a new taboo, as you say, against ridiculing Islam and Islamism. And there is something of a progressive taboo in that. It's not just, you know, conservative Islamist fundamentalists who bristle at the mockery of Islam. It's also progressives who see it as racist. There is also an element, perhaps, of genuine fear. We have seen, you know...
Oh, I think there's a big part.
A big part of it, you know, the Charlie Hebdo example being the most pertinent, but also people like the Dutch filmmaker Theo van Gogh.
Yeah.
You know, there can be a genuine consequence to mocking Islam, mocking the Prophet.
Fraser, we get all that, don't we? We get all that. And I come back to my point that, so, if you are presenting yourselves, and actually, to be fair to the Chapman brothers, I haven't seen a statement from them saying, look at how brave we are, but we know there are others who position themselves in that, you know, aren't we brave, aren't we transgressive, breaking these boundaries. If they just admit to it, just saying, look, you know, we're not tackling this one because actually we know how it might end.
Well, I think it is the great unspoken. And I mean, we saw recently, you know, if you think of the horrific murder of David Amos, you think about how, you know, no one was really able to articulate that Islamism was the problem. I think, you know, quickly talking about social media anonymity, anything to avoid discussing Islamism, that's a problem for our political class, it's a problem for our artistic establishment, so I'm not surprised at all that it hasn't come up in this case.
Got another couple of stories for you tonight to reflect on. One is this one. Britain's Equalities Minister has put the cat among the pigeons with a less than complimentary appreciation of Black History Month. This is Kemi Badenoch, who told Trevor Phillips on Sky News that it was in danger, Black History Month, not Sky News, of effectively becoming Racism History Month. It was, she added, an American import, which was being used by some people to advance a, as she put it, contrived agenda. Fraser, this is strong stuff from somebody who was building a reputation as somebody who will say seemingly quite unsayable things about things that some people will say no, aren't actually American imports, are quite organically created here.
Yeah, I think, you know, there is a kind of organic Black History Month, but I think there are some criticisms that she's made that are fair. And I think a lot of the time when we talk about race in this country, we seem to directly import American ideas when they make no sense in this context. If you think about a word like BIPOC, which is now becoming popular, that means, you know, black, indigenous people of colour. Now, that makes no sense in a British context where indigenous people are white. Whereas it does make sense in America, and these things are just kind of seamlessly imported. I would also say, you know, perhaps this is maybe to defend the British Black History Month or the need for it, is that I think that a lot of younger people don't actually know anything about Black British history. I expect they know a lot more about...
A lot of young people don't know a lot about white British history.
That's true as well, but I suspect that more people, you know, a lot of people probably only heard about the Windrush arrival after the Windrush scandal. I suspect a lot more people know about, you know, Martin Luther King and the American Civil Rights Movement than they know about our own struggles.
But more people know about Martin Luther King than know about Martin Luther.
That's also true, who he was named after. And so, no, that's not to let Black History Month off the hook, of course. I think one of her really good points was that it is in danger of becoming Racism History Month. And you see that there has become a certain way that we have to talk about race now. So, and you see that through Black History Month, that it's all about a discussion of systemic racism, structural racism. critical race theory, which is a very different way of viewing race than we would have viewed it in the past. Essentially overturning the idea that we should all be treated equally and saying that we should be treated unequally according to our various alleged disadvantages.
Turning the words of Martin Luther very much on their head.
Absolutely.
In the process. One more, just got time for this. Should the police, here's a question, should the police get involved if Halloween decorations grow too gory? Is there such a thing as too gory? Can they, in fact, cause offence? These are questions prompted by a macabre display in the front garden of a home in Leicestershire. The homeowners are Rob and Joe Flower. They regularly deck out their home in displays for Christmas, but also for Halloween. This year, the police got in touch with them with a request to, quote, tone things down following a complaint. The Flowers insist their decorations are popular with neighbours and allow them to raise money for a cancer charity. I think it was a severed head, not literally,
yes,
that seemed to cause the offence. I've noticed a drift towards greater goriness for Halloween.
Yeah, certainly, but I think people understand that the context is Halloween. People like
another one of those American imports.
Yeah, another one of those American imports, yeah. And, you know, I think even the children like to be scared on Halloween. And it's interesting, I think what it says is that the police are increasingly getting involved in policing public life, policing, you know, essentially trying to stop people from being offended, getting more in these kind of little neighbourly disputes that have nothing really to do with their job in tackling crime. They visited the house at least twice, from my understanding, once when they weren't in and once when the man was there and told him to tone it down. I mean, this is not a good use of police time, really. And off the back of one anonymous complaint, it seems. It only takes one person to be offended for the police to spring into action. Would they be there as quickly if you got burgled? I'm not so sure.
And without the police, without the state getting involved, what is the corrective mechanism? I get back in the day when we lived in less atomised times and communities were stronger and people knew their neighbours. And it seems quite a neighbourly area that we're talking about here. It just sort of organically, people worked out what was right, what was wrong.
Yeah.
But we've moved away from that.
Well, why can't we talk to our neighbours? And unless we talk to our neighbours, unless we have get that conversation going, then nothing's going to change. You know, you should be able to say how you feel to your neighbour without breathing down, you know, barking at them or something.
Yeah.
If you ask nicely.
There you go, Fraser. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
You did come in.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.